What's up, Jets fans? It's Christian from the Jets Report, and today I'm going to be discussing with you guys 3 players I feel like the Jets must re-sign this offseason. I know we only had 2 wins in 2020, and it wasn't a great year by any means, but throughout the roster there was some bright spots and some players that are definitely worth bringing back to help build upon and have a greater team in the future. So the first player I want to review is a player that I feel like should be Joe Douglas's #1 priority in the entire offseason, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through the draft, or anything, all of the above. I think Joe Douglas's #1 priority should be bringing back Marcus Maye, safety. Marcus Maye was drafted 39th overall in the 2017 NFL Draft out of Florida. The 27-year-old stands at 6 foot 207 pounds. In 2018, which was his second year in the league, Marcus Maye posted 31 solo tackles, 1 interception on 4 total targets. In 2019, he posted 58 solo tackles on 1 interception on 20 total targets. In 2020, when he took over as the complete safety leader when Jamal Adams left, Marcus Maye posted 65 solo tackles, 2 interceptions on 36 targets. So his Pro Football Focus grades the past 3 years were: in 2018 he posted an 80.0, in 2019 he posted a 74.5, and in 2020 he posted an 82.8. So to go over Marcus Maye, looking past the things that he performs on the field, because he's a great performer on the field and he can play areas like the corner, slot corner, safety, and free safety, so he's very versatile, and he stays relatively healthy, especially in 2020. He had no injuries and he played a full season, and he really balled out. But looking past that, he's also a great leader, and he also embodies what it means to be a New York Jet. Jamal Adams left, and there was a lot of turmoil. I mean, no one knew how Marcus Maye would step up, because Marcus Maye was kind of always that Robin to Jamal Adams, who was Batman. But when Marcus Maye stepped up, he really balled out, and he provided a lot of leadership and stability. He mentored young players. He loved being a Jet. He embraced being a Jet, and he embraced being a Jet through the toughest times, arguably in the franchise history, only winning 2 games this year. And I feel like that's so valued, and you can't show that on the stat sheet. You could show that through team morale, team chemistry, and he brings all of that to the table. That's why I really do think he's worth bringing back, and I really do think Joe Douglas values that. Now, looking for his play on the field, he steadily improved every year, and his stats were great this year when he completely took over. And I feel like if we don't bring him back, we're only creating more issues in a secondary that's pretty weak on this team, and we're giving another team a great safety and a great leader. So, looking at what I'm willing to pay Marcus Maye, I'm thinking in the range of 4 years to lock him up through his age 31 season, and give him about $11 to $12 million a year. Now, would I be comfortable giving him $13 million a year? Yes, I feel like he's definitely worth that. I'm willing to pay that, especially because we have so much money in free agency. But if we could lock him up in the $10 to $12 million a year, I think that would be perfect. And there's a chance. I mean, Marcus Maye might be trying to ask for $15 million a year, which is that Buda Baker record-setting money for a safety type salary. And I mean, he does warrant that type of money. Like, he could realistically ask for that. But I feel like if he asks for that, Joe Douglas isn't really going to bite on that. He's either going to try to negotiate him down to sign him to a long-term deal, or worst comes to worst, he franchise tags him, and actually the franchise tag is down about 10 to 11% this year, so it will be even cheaper to franchise tag him. And I feel like there's no way Joe Douglas lets Marcus Maye leave. It's either he's franchise tagged or he's signed to a long-term deal, and either one's a win-win. Obviously, I would like to lock him up for longer, but I'm pretty sure I can assure you guys that Marcus Maye will be on the 2021 Jets roster. So looking at the second player I think the Jets should re-sign is cornerback Brian Poole. Brian Poole went undrafted in 2016 to the Falcons, and he attended Florida University. The 28-year-old stands at 5'10", 213 pounds. He obviously mainly plays in the slot. In 2018, he posted 55 solo tackles, 3 interceptions on 73 targets. In 2019, he posted 52 solo tackles, 1 interception on 53 targets. That was his first year with the Jets in 2019. And in 2020, he posted 41 solo tackles, 2 interceptions on 40 targets. And the past 3 years, his Pro Football Focus grades are: in 2018, he graded out as a 61.3. In 2019, he graded out as a 79.0. And in 2020, he graded out as a 77.1. So Brian Poole, he's extremely underrated in my opinion. He's arguably a top 10, top 7 slot corner. Maybe you can even put him in the top 5. I don't think people overrate him because the slot corner position is a little undervalued and overlooked a little bit. But he's only allowed one touchdown in his whole tenure with the Jets the past 2 years, and he graded out as in Pro Football Focus as a top 11 corner last year out of all corners. That's not just slot, that's also outside, and he's been very impressive. So Marcus May has been playing on some 1 year deals. He came to the Jets at a 1 year deal, and he re-signed with the Jets last offseason at about 1 year, $5 million. So I'm looking to give Brian Poole a raise of about 3 years to $6 to $7 million range to lock him up for about 3 years, 18 million to 3 years, like 19, 20 million. I'll be comfortable with any of that. And I feel like he's extremely valuable. And the same thing with Marcus May. The secondary position is pretty thin, and Brian Poole and Marcus May are clear-cut best players in that position group. And if we don't bring them back, we're only hurting ourselves and creating more problems. And Brian Poole does present some veteran leadership in that position group, which will be much needed when we have young guys like Bryce Hall, Blessuan Austin, and possible rookies starting on the outside for us. He hasn't had many major injury issues in his tenure with the Jets. He has been banged up a couple of games, but nothing major and no major concern. One note before we go on to the next players: if we end up not re-signing Brian Poole, we do indeed get a compensation pick. I'm not sure what round that'll be in, but that's just one thing to remember. If Joe Douglas doesn't re-sign him, that may be a reason he may value that pick and try to get some young rookies in that spot. But I 100% would love Brian Poole to be back with the Jets in 2021. So lastly, the last player I want to talk about is guard/center Pat Elflein. Now, I know this might not be a flashy pick by any means, but I feel like he provides a lot of stability. So Pat Elflein was drafted in the 2017 NFL Draft with the 70th overall pick out of Ohio State. The 26-year-old stands at 6'3", 303 pounds. In 2018, he gave up 7 penalties and 4 sacks on 863 snaps. In 2019, he gave up 8 penalties and 6 sacks on 919 snaps. And in 2020, he gave up 1 penalty and 2 sacks on 419 snaps. His Pro Football Focus grades are: in 2018, he graded out as a 48.2. In 2019, he graded out as a 64.4. And in 2020, which was the year he joined the Jets, he played with the Vikings for the 2018-2019 seasons, he graded out as a 48.2. So those grades, not flashy by any means, not high by any means, but he does provide a lot of depth, and interior offensive line is arguably our worst position. I mean, it was terrible last year. It was like the floodgates were opening right to the middle, attacking Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco. And I'm not expecting Pat Elflein to start at all, but he could provide depth for injuries that are going to come. I mean, and offensive linemen do get banged up a lot, and Pat Elflein, I would be confident with him stepping in for a couple of games, and I don't think it would be a complete liability. I definitely am looking to sign guys like Joe Thuney or Wyatt Davis and have them as starters, but if Pat Elflein is there to back him up, I would be 100% happy. And money-wise, I'm looking at us bringing back on a 1-year deal for about like $1 to $2 million. I have a feeling it's going to be like a 1 year, $2 million deal with like maybe a team option the next year. But it's not a lot of money, but it's a signing that will be worth that value, and it could be a high-value signing. I'm not looking for him to be a starter, obviously, but if he could step in for a couple games and be a solid rotational guy, I think that would be great value for 1 year, $2 million. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below about these 3 players. What do you think about them? And is there any players that you might want to re-sign over these guys? And I'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Jets.